And Sandy Miss with the Transportation Council.
And Tracy, Transportation Council. Chris Bauer, Transportation Council staff.
Melissa Shanley, CDTA.
Again, everybody.
Megan Bacon and Jim. And Lisa Wallen with engineering.
And I'll just quickly read the folks listening in remotely. We have Stephen Maples from the council, Jamie O'Neill, Town of Malta, Joe Cimino, CHA, Caitlin, I always mess up this name, Meyer from the Town of Colony, Peter Comenzo from Town of Rotterdam, Ryan Riper, Town of Wilton, Sharon Butler, City of Cohoes, Tess Droshak here at the Transportation Council, and Tony Tazi at the Town of Glenville. If I missed anyone online, just please note yourself in the chat.
Sandy, visitor issues, nobody signed up.
Nobody registered to speak.
Right into a presentation, Sand Creek Road Complete Streets Study. You're going to introduce that?
Yeah, so this is one of our recently completed linkage studies. As you know, we've been carrying about 10 of these for the last year or so. This is the first one that was recently completed, and we invited our team from MJ Engineering, Lisa and Megan, Lisa Wall and Megan Bacon, to kind of present on the findings. So I will set this up for you guys and I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you for the invite today to share some information about our study that we wrapped up just about last month. So this linkage study was sponsored by the Village of Colony. Our study advisory committee was very active on this. We heard from the Village of Colony. Town of Colony, looking on the map, part of the study area, about half of it is actually Albany County. They own the waterway shaker study area, DOT, South Colony School District, CDRPC, and CDTA, and we've also had a few residents. And Megan's going to take us through the bulk of them.
So the red line in the middle is Sand Creek Road, the limits of our study, which was from Waterville Shaker Road to Wolf Road, and then the other lines around it are the main road within the town and Village of Colony. Just kind of shows how big of a connection Sand Creek Road is for town and village residents. So the objectives of this study was to provide recommendations that would improve the sidewalks and crosswalks for safe, accessible pedestrian travel, improve bicycle infrastructure to encourage active transportation, slow vehicle traffic, and create a safer environment for all users, and enhance the look of the corridor with paving feature and to create a more attractive. And the goal of the study was to develop a plan endorsed by the village that could be for some funding opportunities to guide them. So we looked at several existing conditions for this study. Zoning and land use is primarily commercial and residential along the corridor. Roadway characteristics, Sand Creek Road is a two-lane road for the most part until you get down towards Wolf Road, and it starts to split off. 30 miles an hour, there's several signalized intersections, and it's curved primarily along the north side. For pedestrian accommodations, the sidewalk primarily exists along the east side. There are some gaps. And then there's segments of sidewalk and disrepair that are complete. For bicycle accommodations, there's no existing facilities, but Sand Creek Road is on the Transportation Council bike pedestrian priority. Traffic was a big component for this study. The 86th percentile speed was 38 miles per hour, close to 30 miles per hour. Like I previously mentioned, there were several signalized intersections throughout the corridor, but Hunting Road and Computer Drive South were ones of concern. On paper, they appear to operate very well, but given the character of the corridor, drivers have a hard time making lefts onto and off of Sand Creek Road. So we looked into how we could make that. And then bike and pedestrian counts show moderate use. Crash history, there were 7 crashes involving pedestrians and bicycles, and 5 of those crashes had reported injuries. There was 1 fatal vehicular crash at Sunset Boulevard intersection, and the crash rate is 1.4 accidents per million vehicle miles, with the state average being 2. So for freight, the truck traffic along this corridor is 5%, which is considered kind of high. That was another concern the village wanted us to look into, how to remove some pessimistic off of the hood. For transit, there's no CDTA bus stops, but there are 11 school bus stops. They got multiple times a day. There's no on-street parking. And then for the environmental resources, there's aquifers, wetlands, endangered historic, all things. So for public engagement, we did this in 2 phases. The first phase was to present the existing conditions, get feedback from the community on the challenges and opportunities along the corridor. We hosted several input sessions over the summer with the Sunset Boulevard Neighborhood Association, the traffic advisory, business stakeholders, and then we had open house number 1 that was open to the. At these sessions, we reviewed street street definition, examples, and conditions. We explained the modal hierarchy and maintenance implications. And then we asked attendees what they believe the issues along the corridor were and what to do. Open house number 1 had 47 attendees that signed in, and a lot of the attendees were very vocal about the issues they saw and what they. So a large number of respondents found that driving speed is a problem along the corridor. Other problems include the sidewalks being blocked, crosswalks not being available, and drivers not willing to. So for walking and biking for the survey, most respondents said that the walking experience is fair along Sand Creek Road. They'd like to see better pedestrian crossings, wider sidewalks. For the biking experience, very poor. There's no shoulders 2 feet along Sand Creek Road. That combined with the fast vehicle speeds makes users feel unsafe. Bicycle facilities that they would like to see multi-use paths, on-street bike lanes, and shared use. So we looked at all. And then the second phase of the public engagement was open house number 2, where we summarized all of the input sessions back. We presented the draft concept plan, and then we held small group discussions to get the public's feedback on. Throughout the life of the study, we had a website available where we would post all of our available materials, everything that was reviewed at these open houses, just if you can make it. And then there was a comment box that was open for the entire study for people to provide feedback. So from all of this engagement, we have the following improvements. So intersection improvements, pedestrian and bicycle accommodation, crossing, access management, lighting. So we wrote Sand Creek Road out very long. Applying for funding. Segment 1 is going to be water shaker fund. This is for those of you who are familiar, area water shaker construction. Going south of the road, we're proposing that down. Sidewalk gaps, pleasure. And Southgate, right in the block crossing, water. Come down Sand Creek Road, cross here to down Shaker. To the south end block. To come outside sidewalk to Shaker Run, where it has to come down to tree. Segment 2 and 3, Shaker Run. Away. 8-foot multi path down to Hunting Road or to Jerry. And then a sidewalk. Hunting Road and Valley View there. I should know it's not warranted here, so the recommendation for that area around Bower Park. A lot of pedestrians from Tiny Town, then pool down Northella. Everybody crosses here. Park. I'll tell you, or a little walk crosses here. Access management as a mile long kind of drive. Currently, drive 1 access point. So recommended. And then down to Cordella Road, shared. And then the sidewalk, that's it. Yeah, two. And then segment 4 is your zero lane, half town, half village. Signal upgrades at Computer 5 South, a left-hand. Users to get off of Sand Creek Road for an active park. Continuing the shared Computer Drive South and down drive across Oak Road at a left. Continuing sidewalk off 5th Street. Recommended raise the fire department would have that needs for- we have shared turn lanes and traffic to park here as well as Hannaford. Continuing that sidewalk back out. Several corridor wide enhancements. The Village Gateway, the sign currently. Supposed to move it, get it out of the way of the bike path, but it's a street tree. Lighting, our park entrance, trash receptacles, signage, bike racks, like, Computer Drive South, the mid block, some benches, some shades, some that property angle. Towards the pedestrian towards traffic. They're recommending dark back signage, increase present street tree corridor, being able to find some better visibility far down, especially on the water. Structurally, you get contact. The bicycle and tree amendment. Corridor, Computer Drive South Road, our park.
Yeah. So, what the next steps are. They are very eager and very excited. And so they were already here, but I think there is a good spot. Go after, they've already, no, they did put in an application for her. So takeaways here, there's quite a fun sources that would cover the project. Biggest takeaway is that the segments that we wrote
Sorry, yeah, the owl is technical glitching on us, but you're fine.
the segments, we chose them down this way for a few reasons. One, they aren't fundable budgets for most of the fund sources. It's also based on the jurisdiction limits. So, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, the segment 2 and 3 could be taken on by the village themselves, where 1 and 4 either needs to be the town on its own, or segment 4, the town village jurisdiction along Wolf, coming up to Wolf Road is right down the center of the road. So to make those improvements, they need to have a shared application. A few other things we touched on with the village, public education. I think that's pretty important for most of these linkage studies and public transportation projects. And it's a challenge. How do you teach people, or you can't demand that someone crosses the street at where they're supposed to, where it's safe, you can provide that infrastructure, but you can't force them. Bicycle infrastructure and regulations. Again, it's a public education outreach. Approvals and coordination for this, we mentioned a few times, DOT, fitting that turn lane onto, out here, onto, computer drive, thank you. We would, to fit that in, we'd have to modify the stone embankments under the, Northway bridges, so that would require some coordination. Town and Colony, of course, and some of the stakeholders, Megan mentioned Tiny Town and the dentist's office there to clean up their driveway entrances. And then certainly to make sure the village and towns are comfortable with maintaining what gets constructed.
Thank you, Lisa. Megan, any questions, comments?
Did I see a raised crosswalk across the
We
road
saw
here?
2 of them.
So thank you for when I walked to Hannaford to get my lunch. Feel a lot safer.
Yeah, the village was excited about that. There were some questions and concerns that I'm not sure we could answer now. If you put the raised crosswalk right adjacent to an intersection, how does that affect, what does that feel like when you're slowly turning out of the intersection? So we recommended that they do a demonstration and buy temporary, or, you know, and see what people think.
In the mid-block crossings were just signage, there's no, they don't have the volume for beacons or anything, I would
You don't
presume.
have the volume.
So I was just concerned, and interesting, is that, you may have said this early on, Sand Creek County Road, State Road?
It's the road right behind our building
Yeah.
here, so you can go out and look at it live.
Yeah, it's actually just owned.
It's a local street.
It's a little
Yeah.
town street, yes.
Really? Interesting.
I
Yeah,
know.
connecting Wolf Road to Water Relief.
Mhm. That's part of the issue with the truck traffic too. They limit it with signs, but you know, when you got the airport on one side and it's a long detour to get.
I was
out.
gonna say, for freight, isn't it? I mean, obviously, the locals can say what they want on the road, right? But what's the option for all the vehicle, you know, Wolf Road?
They
and
should be out.
All
on
the
Central.
municipal, all the,
Yeah.
you know, stores and everything.
Right, I mean, they should be out
So-
on the main roads and technically not through.
So you
Central
go
or
on.
Albany Shaker. Yeah,
Did you, the number of participants, providing comments on what they liked, what they didn't like? I noticed that there was 47% who was looking for cyclist-friendly stuff. Did you have more of a contingent of cyclists attending that could sway the percentage? Or what was like the demographic and the age groups that attended?
one of the stakeholder meetings, the village's traffic and safety committee, they invited the Albany Bike Coalition, so they were there for that one. At the public meeting that we were giving the data for, they weren't at that, actually, one representative was there. The corridor was very split with the residents, some people wanted them, very excited to see that the gaps were being closed, but there was a very vocal half that was not interested in that strip taking or having that bike path be on their front lawn. So, that is one reason why we're not showing the bike path continuing through. The original plan had it, but if we put this project forward, basically knowing that they're not gonna cooperate later, then it's not constructible, so. It was probably 50-50.
Thank you.
If you only have 2 feet, I think you said, for, you know, emergency, call it breakdown lane,
Mhm.
but you want to widen the sidewalks, how do you do both without taking people's front yards?
They do have a decent amount of right of way,
It's still their front.
it's still their front yard.
Right.
Um,
I wouldn't want to bike path through my front yard. Like you're talking about sidewalk, I could probably, you know, if I was living there, I'd want to have,
Yeah,
I can see that. But
it's a difficult corridor because their homes are very close to the road
Yeah.
through the middle section.
And actually, maybe a question for everybody, because it's not my forte. You said 30, it's a 30-mile-an-hour road. And 85% said 38 miles an hour, which is, for me, perfectly reasonable. Is your judgment that that's too fast, or people that were there saying that's too fast? Because you're If you're not gonna get a ticket for it, you.
Sure.
Depends if they're running later.
It-
If you're going through that 45, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little fast, but even if that's the 85th percent, we did have quite a few hits in the 60s. I think they're more concerned
That's
with
different.
those, and I don't, if anyone drives that corridor regularly, I do. Someone's always like jammed right up to your bumpers, you're even driving in the 30s.
Probably about typical for a street of that nature, but
Right,
there
it's regular.
certainly is, concerns from residents about speed. We hear it all the time.
On the other side, definitely, down by the schools, that's a regular 45, 50.
And if you observe when the kids are getting off the school buses out here, the parents are not happy with what they see.
I was
And
gonna
that's
say
a
this.
very, very big concern for, a lot of the neighbors that live here.
Are there 11 set bus stops or 11 right now because of where the kids live? Do they have designated bus stops?
I'm not sure. Yeah.
That might be it.
It's probably a
Same.
mixture, because there's not that many cross streets, so it's probably a mixture.
I've asked the RTC to stop scheduling meetings around 2 o'clock here because I have to go a different route. Going down that
Yeah,
road,
Because of the
Out of the
buses.
schools.
oh, it's insanity. The other thing, I don't know, Sandy, if we've done this in the past, when you have something like this with multiple municipalities, does the county ever come in and like kind of bridge the gap? I mean, the county's doing that with Schenectady for our Pell and things, but I don't know if that there's a history of the county being the applicant when there's multiple municipalities involved.
Yeah, we've had a few instances where the counties have taken the lead on a capital project.
Even
or-
though it's not a county road.
Right, usually there's a collaborative team, and they're all contributing in some manner, but sometimes it depends on the road owner. We've definitely had a few over the years where the counties have stepped up.
See a lot in the bridge jobs, because the town will is struggling, the county basically under replacement.
Yes, that's what I would go right to if I had a like town and just given a router, I would probably go right to Steve and Paul and Peter, have them, that's what we did with the Pell. We just went right to them and they took it and it's fine.
Any other comments? Thank you.
Thank you, guys, appreciate it.
The marketing schedule, which is 2 o'clock.
You never wanna.
Well, he walks.
Yeah, I walked in.
That's what I mean, why? Take a little break.
All right, administration, previous meeting minutes, April 3rd. You get a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Tim, and
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Tip fiscal constraint. I don't see Jacob.
so I will be stepping in for Jacob, who is on vacation. Oh, actually, he's not on vacation. He's working in Pittsburgh today. So the fiscal constraint table, as we always like to show before we take the tip amendment actions, sorry, just, there it goes. So his notes to me were, we are within our 5% over programming for each year, hence the green on the screen. And we're slightly under programmed over the whole 4 years. That's not to say there's oodles and oodles of money sitting there. It depends on the fund source. We are most under programmed right now. Over programmed, I should say, in NHPP. And we're slightly under programmed based on the planning target and the STP flats, but that's also the most valuable fund source, so the most likely one to get picked up in tip amendments. So continue to monitor this as we head into the tip update this fall. We hope to have more information about the tip update late summer is what I'm hearing.
Sandy, draft 2023-24 performance and expenditure report. I'm assuming that's you.
Yes, so this is just for your information. We have to, every 6 months, write a progress report essentially. For the Federal Highway Administration, and Federal Transit Administration on the expenditure of our planning funds, both us here at the council and CDRPC share as well. So just a few highlights, we'll go through some great detail. But we obviously been working hard to progress the development of the new, Metropolitan Transportation Plan. We've successfully approved new TIP amendment guidelines. And amongst the completed planning work, we finished 4 technical assistance projects, the regional truck parking study, 3 ADA transition plan initiatives. We also developed a 2023 trail count program report and released that. And we completed 1 linkage study, which is the one you just heard about. And nearly completed 3 others that are right on the cusp of being totally completed. So we'll have more presentations coming soon. And we initiated our regional Vision Zero safety action plan work. And a lot of these, as I've said before, the MTP, the TIP, and the Vision Zero safety action plan will really be our 3 big initiatives for the next year. You'll be hearing a lot about these things. So if you're interested in more details of some of the little things that we do, I encourage you to flip through that report, and it's available on our website.
Sandy, action items. This looks like it's all CDTA.
Yes, and Melissa is here to speak to those. What I got for you. Oops.
So good morning. We do this every year. Each year, FTA has apportioned funds that are for CDTA. We are the designated recipient. We're the only ones eligible to program those funds. And some of them are 5307 funds and 5339. So this is aligning the projects that were approved in our internal capital plan at the end of March with the actual funding apportionments from FTA for the projects that we're looking to execute this year. So this is typically our preventive maintenance, our bus replacements, shelters. This year we have mobility hubs that we're working on in the region. But this is a standard thing we do each year just to update so that the TIP aligns with the projects we're looking to do as is required by FTA to have the TIP and SIP match for our grant submission. Just looking for approval from the committee. We do the mobility hub project, and I think a couple of them do need to go to policy.
Correct. I'll just, if you wanted to speak to what the mobility hub project, since that's the only new one. Here it is.
Yes, so remember exactly what this one is.
Well, I mean, I think it speaks for itself is the fact that, you know, CDT has been embarking on implementing mobility hubs. We have one in Schenectady. There's one being planned, I think, up in Coles, if I recall correctly. So these are places where we're bringing together a bunch of transportation services in one spot, usually at the key station or key stations in the CDTA system. And there might be, you know, the CDPHP bike share available. There might be the new car share program available. There might be other maybe one-day scooters, we don't know. But, you know, bringing together all the different transportation services into one spot, which helps to address the first and last mile when you get on and off the transit. So it's a new project. You know, they've been piloting a few of these, but I think now we're saying we're gonna make a routine and continual investment.
Yes, and I think the one this year is actually by Maria College. There's a couple things in that area, so that's where this one specifically is. But we're hoping to keep the project general enough that as we build future mobility hubs, we can just keep adding funds to this project.
So is this a new set aside then? It's gonna be an annual.
No, this is from our formula funds. So we're programming the funds that are designated to CDTA to support this project.
Yeah, unlike the federal highway side of the funding package, the FTA side of our world is largely dedicated to CDTA because they're their only regional public transit provider. So they have some flexibility in how they assign the use of the funds for different initiatives. Generally speaking, it's, you know, purchase of buses, safety equipment, but it also affords them the opportunity to do these sorts of projects as well.
in motion to take them all as one.
We're adding 8 projects to the TIF this year. Is it all,
It's one-
all new or is it
One
all
new one and all the rest are adjustments.
adjustments to existing projects? So 7 adjustments, 1 new project for mobility. Oh, bonding.
Second.
We get a motion for the formula funds. I
Yes,
guess.
that,
Dan.
motion to consider them all in one vote, and second, and motion.
Second from Mark. Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you. Draft amendment 2024-25 the UPWP. We have a
Yes.
resolution associated
We
with it.
do. So similarly to what Melissa just described on Federal Transit Administration on the capital side, we too here at the NPO have to match our planning funds. We do get a share of planning funds from the FTA, and we had a revised allocation from DOT. So what this amendment's going to do is amend our Unified Planning Work Program to reduce our Federal Transit Administration planning funds by a very modest amount, so just under $11,000. So it's a budget, I would consider that a little bit more of a budget adjustment. While we're making this amendment to the UPWP, we are also proposing a few other changes. Number one, we drew down on some of our complete streets funding, which we in the shorthand referred to as a PA set aside. And that actually went to fund one of our linkage studies. So we reduced our allocation because we expended some funding in the prior fiscal year, which ended the end of March. We also made changes because of our staffing changes here and other situations regarding our regional transportation plan. We increased the budget for our consultant support to support the $250,000 contract that's being up for RFP right now. So that budget adjustment is being made. We have a backlog of funds that we use to draw down upon to use those extra funds. We also are removing from the UPWP 2 completed linkage days, the Sand Creek Road, which you just heard about. And we also just completed the Hoosick Road study in Brunswick, which I hope to have a presentation on at the next meeting, because that was a very interesting project, which is getting a lot of press attention, and it's a tough quarter, as you folks know. And then the final adjustment to the UPWP, we did expend some final, remembering that the policy board approves the UPWP in early March. So in that couple of weeks' time, we expended some additional funds. So these are also budget adjustments related to various tasks in the UPWP. And then the final piece is we received an additional $20,000 from the United States Department of Energy to support some of our clean cities planning work. So we will be adding that funding to the UPWP. So this collection of budget adjustments is simply just to update our work plan for this year, and we can take them all as one action. Because
The
obviously
action is reporting is resolution onto the policy board for approval.
Yep.
Okay, then we get a motion to that effect.
Yeah.
We have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, we're into what, in motion goals? Is that
Yeah.
the basic goals of the goals?
Correct. So first of all, I know many of you attended the first task force meeting. I really do appreciate so many folks coming in person. It was a good discussion. We had sent a little homework assignment with you, which was to sort of review the goals that were presented at the meeting, and provide some input to us. And for those that weren't at the meeting, I'll just briefly let you know where we're at as a status report. All the phase 1 products have been completed. So we are currently sitting in phase 2 of the process. Right now, we're working on promoting a survey to help get priorities and issues identified from the public of what they think is important. And we're obviously working on refining these draft goals that will carry through the process. In terms of public outreach, the survey is going to remain open through the end of this month. month of May. This is May 1st, believe it or not. We've sent around a bunch of material to you folks to help blast out on social media. So anything you can do, we'll be sending this to the elected officials as well. We had press release went out. I'm actually gonna be interviewed this afternoon about it, with one of our local news outlets. We have a virtual workshop that's available for the public, so it's a very short 15-minute video kind of giving an overview of the plan and the process. And then there's a 3-question survey that follows it, so we're hoping to generate some input that way. Some of the things that we're going to be doing this month, we have local library outreach, so we actually dropped off to various libraries throughout the region, materials that include a QR code for folks to access the website and the survey, in hopes that we might capture some folks that we might not get through social media or through other means. We are scheduling 4 pop-ups at some of the region's transit stops. And we will also be attending various events to table over the next couple of weeks. So we're gonna be out in the field at 9 different locations over the next couple of weeks. So we're hoping to get some additional survey responses, which will help frame sort of the vision and the goals as we continue to move forward. You know, I'll resend the QR code to you folks so you have it if you don't already have it. You know, we'll be, again, using all of this information to help build the goals. So the goals that I'm sharing with you today have remained unchanged since you saw this, simply because the deadline for submitting comments was yesterday. We got significant comments from everybody. There's a lot to pour through. It's gonna require some staff time to make adjustments to capture all of the points of view. I'll be honest, it was so wide ranging that it's to bring it all together is gonna take us some time. So, but the highlights of where the initial goals were that were presented for those that weren't at the meeting. We have, you know, sort of a climate related reduced greenhouse gas emissions goal. We want to make sure that our investments are being wisely used in an equitable way and assisting those who are most disadvantaged as best as we can. Safety remains a key goal throughout everything we do here to reduce fatalities and serious injuries. Stewardship is sort of a broad word to kind of describe how we make sure the system is resilient and sustainable for the long term. And then prosperity, vitality, livability, these are kind of words that make sure that we support economic development and community quality of life. And then connectivity, how do we close the gaps in the system so that we can improve access for both people and goods. So those are sort of the broad goals. What we intend to do is refine these, add some additional principles or context to each of the goals based on the feedback we received. And the revised task force next steps, which is the piece that's the action item today. As I said, the comments on these initial goals were due yesterday. We'll be refining them over the next week or two. We plan on sharing a second draft of the goals with the task force sometime next week. Giving you guys maybe a week or two to take a look at them. And at that point, we're hoping to then bring those refined goals to present to our policy board in June, just to stay on schedule. We did fall a little behind with Jen leaving here, so we are playing a little bit of catch up, but and at that point, we're gonna ask the policy board to approve the draft goals to release for public feedback. And this summer is what we'll do. We'll be spending time going to the public, seeking input on those goals, and some of the principles behind those goals. And then we have a July task force meeting scheduled, at which point we'll start refining a vision statement, talking about how to get at identifying regional needs for the needs assessment in terms of infrastructure, you know, talking to communities about what you folks need. You know, is it as simple as filling your potholes, or is it as large as replacing a major bridge? You know, what are those local needs? Coming up with that preliminary list of what we term, air quotes, illustrative projects. So think the 787 scenario, things that are well beyond the ability for us to fund here locally. And we're gonna try to establish kind of what that laundry list of potential big projects might be. So that is where we're at with the process. Like I said, the key point and why we wanted to maintain this as an action item today. Usually we try to bring this to you guys to take action on before the policy board. The calendar is just not working in our favor. But with your comfort level, since many of you are on the emotion task force, if you're okay with deferring to them to make, kind of finalize the refined draft goals, and then we'll bring them to the policy board in June, just so we can stay on schedule.
So the action is what?
Empowering the in motion task force to refine the draft goals and make the recommendation to the policy board for approval and release to the public.
Any discussion on that thought?
I'll make the
All
motion.
good. Thanks, Mark. Do we have a second? Is that,
Mark and Andrew?
okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed, abstain? Motion carries.
Sandy, you say you have another month of public comment, right?
Yes, on this initial survey that's out, and if you haven't looked at the survey, it's a very simple survey where we ask the public, what do you think about our transportation system? Have you visited a place that you say, hey, they've got some cool stuff, I'd love to see that in the region, and where are those places? And then we ask them, if you had the control over the funding, where would you prioritize spending? So those really are the three questions that are on in the survey. We've gotten about 50+ surveys at this point. But again, we'll be out in force this month, trying to get those numbers done.
Did you push that out on LinkedIn or?
Yeah.
Could you do it?
I can do it again. We have it on our office LinkedIn page, or my personal LinkedIn page. We have it on our socials, but if you need more resources, I can resend.
Yeah, if you could resend.
Yeah,
Push it.
absolutely.
I missed it.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah, we do have a toolkit for your use, so I'll resend that to this group.
Thank you, Sandy. ADA transition self-analysis, is that what we're at?
Yes.
Transition plan solicitation.
So this was our,
Results.
yes, this was our revised agenda item, so we did not have this prior to today. I'm not here. Do you want to speak to what we did and what the recommendations are?
Sure. So we released a solicitation in March looking for municipalities to apply to do ADA's, should say, someone else, the transition plan of their pedestrian infrastructure. We got 5 applications. The town of Clifton Park, which had applied the last time we did a solicitation, and we had funded them. The Village of Minnehaha, City of Rensselaer, City of Schenectady, and the town of Wilton. The town of Wilton has been working on theirs. I think I've reviewed their complete draft 2 or 3 times now over the last year or so. So they just need help finishing, but all of the, the bulk of the work for these is having somebody go out into the field and do an analysis of the condition of the existing infrastructure. Wilton's already finished. They did that in-house. So we got together with Valerie from NISOT to review the applications and came up with a funding recommendation basically for all of the applications except for the City of Schenectady. Their application wasn't as strong as the others, and just because of the size of their network, if we were to do Schenectady's, that would be the only one that we would be able to do in this funding round.
So the recommendation is Rensselaer, Clifton Park.
And to help Wilton finish their project up.
Any comments from Schenectady?
Fine.
Chris, just so you're aware, I mean, there'll be other opportunities next year for this. So.
Yeah, I think the ADA falls under the city's law office, so we have an entirely new law staff. I mean, the entirety of the law staff is new, so I put this with them. Because they're listed on the website and the charter and all this, so I thought this would be a good learning experience for them to understand their place. Because typically what it is give the work to Chris. So this would be kind of putting it back. So I assisted, but I let them kind of do it. So previously though, our previous law department didn't really have any input in this, they didn't really feel any need to do it, so, I mean, at least putting in the application was a step in the right direction. So we will put it in again, when the next one comes.
And if you folks wanna set up a meeting with Terry and our team here to kind of just talk about the role and the requirements, if you will, we can.
Because it's big,
certainly do it.
it's the city. It's a lot different than the other applications. so.
Right.
So the low score is attributable to council's office, not you.
Okay. Have I ever lost? I don't recall. I think engineering is like 12-0, a lot of our. So let's.
All right, any other discussion? So we need an action to
Approve these.
approve this recommendation of the committee. Does it go to the policy board, or is it, it's us?
This will just be for you folks.
Okay, can we get a motion to that effect, that help Wilton finish and then do Red Circle and Park and Manans? Motion.
Okay, Pat and Mayor Butler.
Right, any further discussion? Roll calls in favor, say aye, please. Anyone opposed? Abstain?
I abstain.
Abstain? Yeah. Okay, sure. Note that, one abstention. Okay. Discussion items, that's where we're at now, Sandy, summary.
We are.
2022-27 tip administrative modifications.
Yes, we only had two minor modifications, last month. One was a schedule change moving right away from fiscal year 23 to fiscal year 24, for kind of Build-A-Lin project, and the other was adding a right-of-way phase, I'm sorry, I misspoke. The South Street Bridge, was the schedule change. The Carmen Road sidewalk project, was just the addition of a right-of-way phase for $114,000 of STP large urban. Those are the only admin modifications last month.
Any questions, comments? Local project delivery, who's gonna keep going through that?
So there's no presentation today. Jacob just wanted me to mention that the table is available on our website if you want to see where the status of all the projects are. We have reached out to a number of you. And thank you for your input on some of the older local projects that have been sitting on our tips for a while. So we're getting a better understanding of why some projects are not moving forward or what the issues are, and it's kind of all over the map, which is not surprising. And Jacob will be sending tracking emails to the city of Schenectady, Town of Rotterdam, and city of Troy in the not too distant future. So for those folks in the room, you're looking for those emails from Jacob. That's it to report on that.
Cindy, nice that project delivery, Robert?
Just a couple things, a couple weeks ago, we let our multi-site paving contract for this year in the area. The engineer's estimate was 18.7 million, it came in at 18.4, so that was actually a good sign for the season. Coming up next week, the overhead sign replacement, a lot Northway, the overhead sign, and then a couple on 90, that's gonna go out the bid. Resurfacing of I-90 from Corporate Woods to the river there, that's later in May, and then in June, our highway where and when the demand response contract and our bridge preservation contracts should both be out. So before the lettings, it's about $16-17 million worth of work, but on schedule.
Status of regional transportation.
Yeah, so, as I mentioned earlier, we've, finished up the Brunswick linkage study. We're very close on finishing the East Greenbush, North Greenbush Route 4 study. We are also wrapping up, the Crane Street project in Schenectady. So we have a number of linkage studies will be available to report back on in the not too distant future. And we're initiating planning studies right now in Voorheesville. Waiting for some contract language to get signed for the Central Avenue project in the town of Colony. And for those Half Moon and for Niskuna, with some staffing issues here, I'm trying to get the guidelines pulled together for this year's linkage studies. We hope to get the MOUs out sometime next week at the latest. So just bear with us. I apologize for the delay on that. So.
Thank you, Sandy. We got anything to say on the council?
Nope, like I said, I'll resend the toolkit for the MTP update. We'll be out, reaching out to some of you just to coordinate on those pop-ups, just to let you folks know we're out there, so you don't get a phone call. And if you have any questions about that, let me know. That's it for us.
We're continuing to work with the counties on broadband planning in advance of the BEAD application deadline. And so the goal of the broadband planning is to serve unserved areas or to get fiber to currently underserved areas. So that work will continue through the end of this year. Some of you attended the planners forum at which our GIS and data person, Madison Briscoe, presented some data around affordable housing affordability in the region, particularly the disconnect between median household income and median rents in the region. So we'll be releasing that report shortly. The Capital Region Indicators website has been updated with the most recent ACS data for 2022. And our Clean Energy Communities program, as we've been awarded some additional funding from NYSERDA to continue that program through 2026. And I know that Schenectady County received a Climate Smart certification, silver certification from the DEC. So congratulations to Schenectady County for that recognition and the work that went into that certification. And feel free to reach out to our clean energy or climate smart coordinators if you'd like to pursue something similar. Thanks.
Mark, CDTA, what's saying anything?
Sure. So our season 8 CDTA cycle is underway. We have 10 new stations, over 600 bikes and 200 more e-bikes. And we have a new universal access partnership with CDPHP and community care physicians, and it's serving the new health complex at Wellness Way. And there's a opening event for that recently.
Thank you. Robert?
As Sandy mentioned, the capital program update is at least initially underway on the DOT side, sort of running pavement and bridge models and putting sort of what the needs are and conditions, and which will ultimately lead to allocations that we'll be talking around the state. It fits with the time frame of the summer here, but DOT's at least started it. This afternoon is our open house related to 787, reimagined 787. It'll be sort of first time unveiling some of the renderings that the consultant has put together based on commentaries. So, why talk about canals on Broadway, or this afternoon's the time to do it. It's gonna, we have over 1,000 comments, at least on paper in some form across the board, from bike ped connections to boulevards to new bridges to all sorts of ideas that are out there. And so those renderings will be first shown this afternoon. So there's been a lot of publicity, and hopefully we get a good turnout.
Where is that?
Capitol Center, downtown. And there's free parking underneath it, so that's not an excuse.
All right. Is the information gonna be on a website after it's unveiled, or?
We're actually planning to do it, making sure that some of our advocacy friends did not jump the gun, or some of the elected officials. It's all sort of at the same time. By the time I leave early afternoon, all the stuff will be on the website concurrently with the meeting going.
So there is a website.
Yeah.
Okay. Is this a Pell study or no?
It's technically a Pell, but I call it a series of Pels almost. That, hopefully some of these concepts have legs. There's some up in Watervliet and Manans, also related smaller scope sort of projects to open up connectivity. The more complex being, downtown Albany, that's got different layers to it and bigger price tags to it.
How does the DOT prioritize something? You have that project, the bridge up in, Rensselaer County, the one over the river that you were talking about last time you were here. What was that?
Route 4 of the Hudson.
Route 4 of the Hudson. So that's a bridge project for a bridge that needs to be replaced eventually.
Yeah.
So would a project like that take priority over a project that is more of a, I don't know, environmental justice project, or is it all just one big pot that you're just trying to split up?
No, it's very specific. I mean, the color money plays into it and, you know, some of them, with structures specific money, that's, you know, like we do around this table, that's where the tough decisions sort of come in, that the structures team sits down and it, you know, we use the models as sort of a litmus test to what the resident engineers, the structures folks, that they sit around and, you know, what can wait and what can't wait. And it's very different when you get into the trusses that are with section loss on them versus a multi-girder that may be ugly, but has got service life in it. So, you know, I've got it, you know, I've got $1, but I got $10 worth of problems, you know, you just sort of prioritize those. So I don't, we try to look for other funding sources, whether, you know, the same that with discretionary programs, we put them into the statewide prioritization of, to get things that are beyond it. I mean, now 4 over the Hudson in particular, if we need to propose that at this table, it's probably a, you know, $30 or $40 million job. Yeah, you know, that's a big chunk of, well, what doesn't get done becomes the basis of the discussion. Obviously, those ones, and any of the structures over canal, the river, or the Hudson, I mean, they're essentially beyond the allocations that we, preservation sort of allocations that we get. So anything that's bigger in scope like that, including bridge replacements, it's not just a regional decision about it. You know, most of the program that we come up with are a prioritized list of paving candidates, a lot of blocks, the signal work, the bridge maintenance projects, those sort of things. But when you get into the larger capital expenditures, it's the discussion around this table, as well as whether they want to make statewide resources available. Did I spin that enough?
Going the party line, you know? You won't be gracing us with your presence anymore at the planning committee meeting?
Funny you bring that up. This will in fact be my last planning committee meeting representing DOT anyway. I'll leave that caveat out there. It's been my privilege to have been involved with this group for the last 6 years. You know, around the table here, and some of it comes off as routine, I think, but I mean, there's hundreds of millions of dollars that pass around here in the collaborative effort that goes on. I know I've been involved with other things around the state enough, and I know it's around with the other MPOs. I mean, the collaboration around this table is unique. There's that you have 4 counties. Even some of the larger MPOs usually represent a single county, or maybe some periphery ones that getting everybody's priorities and the way we've handled things here, it really, you know, it's been my honor to have been part of that, so.
Appreciate you. The DOT's always had good representation at the table here. I think you replaced Frank. Was it Frank Sonify? And then
6 years.
was it Bob before Frank? Or
Yeah.
was it Bob before Frank?
No, Bob was never.
Oh, Bob was prior.
No, amazing.
Dave Reddick was actually before
That's right.
Frank. Bob was just sort of always around. Bob's still around. If you wanna go have lunch with him.
Okay. All right.
Obviously, my position's been posted and it's out there. They actually duplicated my item, so hopefully we have some overlap. Yeah, I hope you would all know who my candidate that I'm rooting for is, who's now setting up the 787.
We'll put in a good word.
Hopefully that comes together. Thanks.
Thank you, Bob. Thruway Authority.
We have representatives from the Thruway today.
Okay, Albany County Airport, I do not see
Connor
there.
is not available today.
Albany Port District, I do see the Port District.
I think I'll pass today.
Nothing today?
Let's get out of here.
It's a new record, guys. It's only 10:35.
Gosh, you can't even go to lunch.
I know.
Too early.
Run.
Breakfast.
Upcoming meetings, events, deadlines, please take note. Human Services, May 6th, Great Advisory, the 15th. Regional Operations, the 16th, and the Policy Board, June 6th.
And I'll just mention that we will be scheduling the first equity advisory. And thank you. We got an overwhelming response in the positive way. So we have 25 folks who volunteered to be a part of that. So we'll schedule that for the latter part of May as well.
All right. Do we need a motion to adjourn? Is that what we're
We
looking
do.
for now?
We'll make the motion.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You know, we're just.
Well, I agree.